Today's lesson is 11.7, Ordering Fractions. The objective for today is that I will use common denominators and equivalent fractions to order fractions with unlike denominators. First problem we're going to take a look at says, Tyler skated 2/5 of a mile, Grant skated 3/5 of a mile, and Landon skated 1/2 a mile. Write these distances in order from least to greatest. What we're going to do today is we are going to find the least common denominator by finding the least common multiple, which we did this in our previous lesson working on comparing fraction, but this time we're going to look at more than two fractions that we have. So I want you to start by writing out all the fractions we have. We have 2/5, 3/5, and 1/2. These are the fractions we have. So we need to take a look at my denominator. Well, 5 obviously are the same number, and 2 is different. So what we need to do is we need to figure out, listing out the multiples of 5 and listing out the multiples of 2, what is going to be their least common multiple. So I'm going to start with my 5, and I'll go 5, 10, 15. I'm going to stop for now. Do my multiples of 2. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I know there's a lot of you who already knew immediately what the least common multiple was going to be, and you had already figured out that 10 was going to be your least common multiple. If you hadn't figured that out yet, doing this is not a bad thing. So now we know we need to find the equivalent fractions so we can actually compare and order the fractions. Well, I need my new denominator for all of them to be 10. Again, all of the denominators should be the same to be able to compare them. Okay, what I do to each one of them might be different, but the denominator will end up being the same. So I look at 5 times 2 is what gives me 10. Whatever I do to the bottom of that one, I have to do the top. So 5 times 2 gives me 10. 2 times 2 gives me 4. 5 times 2 gives me 10 again, but this time it's 3 times 2 would give me 6. Well, 2 times 5 gives me 10. 1 times 5 gives me 5. So I'm looking at 4/10, 5/10, and 6/10. It says to write them in order from least to greatest. What can be tricky is when you go back to write them in order, you need to write whatever the original fraction was. Well, it says from least to greatest, so 2/5 would be first. Then I'd have 1/2, and then I have 3/5. So this is me writing out my answer in order from least to greatest. Notice that I figured out what the equivalent fractions were with the same denominator, then I compared them, but when I wrote my final answer, I rewrote them as the original fractions they were from the problem. In your notes, I want you to go ahead and write down 4/6, 3/4, and 1/2. We're going to do the same thing that we did previously. This time, we need to find the common denominator between 2, 4, and 6. So I'm going to start with 6. I'm going to go 6, 12, 18, 24. I'm going to stop there for now. If I have to add more to find my common denominator, I can do that. Then I'll go to my 4. I'll go 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and 24. Well, I've already noticed that I have a 24 and a 24. So that's possible, but I also notice I've got a 12 and a 12. Okay, so I'm going to do my 2's. Since 12 is the first one that I have here, I know because it's an even number that it has to be a multiple of 2, but I'm going to go ahead and write them all out right now. So 2, 4, I wrote 8, but that can't be 8 yet. It's got to be 6. 6, 8, 10, and 12. So I also know that because 24 is even, it would be a multiple of 2 as well, but we want the least common multiple, which means I want to use the 12. So I would not worry about the 24 for these problems, but I would worry about the 12. So all 3 of these fractions I have up here will be new fractions with the denominator of 12. So I'm finding the equivalent fraction for 4/6 as long as it has a denominator of 12. So 6 times what gives me 12 would be 2. Whatever I do on the bottom, I have to do on top. So 4 times 2 would be 8. 4 times 3 gives me 12 on this next one. So whatever I do on the bottom, I have to do on top. So 3 times 3 would be 9. 1/2. So 2 times 6 would give me 12. Whatever I do on the bottom, I have to do on top. So I end up with 6/12. So I'm going to write them in order from least to greatest. So my least would be, again, if the denominators are the same like I have over here, all I have to do is compare the numbers on top and write those in order. So I would write 1/2 first. Then next comes 8/12, so I'd write 4/6. Remember that I write the original numbers that they were in the problem, and then I write 3/4. And this would be my final answer to the problem. In your notes, I would like to see you complete number 1 and number 2 in your notes and have them ready to go.